Do you want to learn how to double tongue or triple tongue on the trumpet super cleanly, clearly, and quickly? If so, try out the tips in this video. Welcome back to another episode in a treasure trove of tried and true trumpet tips. The first thing you've got to have if you want to have any kind of clean articulation, whether it's single tonguing, double tonguing, or triple tonguing, is good compression in the mouth before the note speaks. You've got to have good potential energy behind the tongue. So for example, if I take this cabinet door and I apply pressure with this hand, it closes. Now, if I apply pressure with this hand, and yet with this hand, I am resisting it, I'm exerting energy. There's potential energy going on, which means that there's no motion happening. And if I held this for a minute or 5 minutes, I could get tired pretty fast. The thing is, there's no motion going on. But as soon as with this hand, I let go, boom, the door closes and it turns into motion, kinetic energy. So the same thing's got to happen inside our mouth. If I go, what I'm doing with my air is I'm pushing, and then the tongue comes up and seals it off while I'm still pushing. And so there's some pressure there behind the tongue, and then my tongue drops and the air is released. In order to have good pop in the articulation, there's got to be that moment of compression or potential energy with air pressure behind the tongue, but the tongue holding it back. It happens very quickly when we tongue, but it's still there nonetheless for a fraction of a second. So try it with me a few times. Now let's make that happen on the trumpet. That's a good clean single tongue. Now when we do multiple tonguing, we want to do the exact same thing, but with the back of the tongue, with our K syllable. So we got to go, we have to make that potential energy, that compression, before it is then released. So once again, potential energy turns into kinetic energy. Let's try it on the trumpet now. So now what we want to do when we double tongue, we alternate T's and K's, always with that good compression. T, then K, then T, then K. Now, most students at the high school and college levels generally want to be able to double tongue or triple tongue in order to be able to do it really fast. They often make the mistake of trying to go too fast too soon. The only problem is that that leads them to skip that first step of getting the mechanism to happen correctly and to have that compression. And then the double or triple tonguing ends up sounding really kind of watery and wishy-washy and not very clear. So you want to always start with this compression and this clarity at a very slow tempo before then starting to speed it up. Now when my bell points this way, that's my T's, and when my bell points this way, that's my K's. Now when you get into the upper register and when you get down into the very, very low register, it gets a little more challenging. So you're going to want to practice it not only right in that middle easy register, but you're going to want to stretch yourself into the upper and lower ends of the horn as well. Now when it comes to triple tonguing, frankly, it's no more complex than double tonguing. It's just a little awkward because you may not be used to it. So when we do triple tonguing, it's of course associated with triplets. And there's two main ways to do it. You can either go TTK or TKT. And there are strong opinions on both sides of that issue as to which one's better. I personally am a believer that a person can do either of them perfectly fine, perfectly evenly, and fast and smoothly and easily, as long as they learn how to do it. So when I started playing trumpet, I learned the TTK method, and then a number of years later, I learned the TKT method, and now I go back and forth depending on the musical setting. For a beginner level, my personal favorite is the TKT method. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. So basically, we're going to go t, k, t. That's a triplet. So we're going to add one more note. So we're going to go t, k, t, t. Say it with me. T, k, t, t. And once you practice that in all registers and you start to get comfortable with that short little segment, now it's time to start adding longer segments. So now let's do 2 sets of triplets plus a single note. So we're going to go tu, ku, tu, tu, ku, tu, tu. Now, I think it's really important when you're starting out to think of doing quarter notes. And the reason is quarter notes always fall on the beat, and it's less likely that you're going to shortchange a note or under-energize a note, particularly those K syllables, because of the fact that it's off the beat. It's a real easy trap to fall into, is to underplay those K syllables, especially when they're off the beat. So thinking quarter notes will put every note on the beat, and it'll make it easier to think of accenting and fully engaging every single note. Once you learn how to play this with really great clarity and excellence in all registers of the instrument, starting in the middle and then stretching yourself down into the low register and up into the second and third octaves, then you can start to expand the length of your multiple tongue phrases, and you can also start to increase your speed. Always strive for clarity first and speed second. You can do it. Now that you got the basics of the mechanics down, it's time to start speeding things up. And I've found that there are 2 most important things to remember. The first is that the air has got to flow smoothly and consistently throughout the multiple tongued passage. In other words, think of using a legato connection. Tu, ku, tu, tu, ku, tu, tu. The second thing that's so important to remember to do when playing a multiple tongued passage fast is that the air must be injected into the very first note very aggressively and immediately. Your air cannot be slow getting out of the gate. We cannot go. It's got to be. So if you're going to be a good multiple tonguer, you got to get that air shot into the very first note. I've found that when the air isn't really up to speed, right at the very beginning of the note, it's always behind, and we tend to the tongue gets tripped up a lot faster and a lot easier. So those are the 2 big things to remember when playing multiple tonguing passages fast. A really common mistake I see trumpet players do is when they're learning like a really fast Arbin characteristic study, and they've got these really fast 16th notes marked with staccato dots. If you try to play those exercises up to speed and you try to play them staccato, it's going to sound like garbage, and it's going to be super difficult besides. Forget those staccato dots. Think of them as more like marcato. He really wants those notes to be clearly delineated. But when you think of using a legato connection when double tonguing through those passages, it'll sound like $1,000,000, and nobody will know the difference that you're not playing staccato. So to recap, when you're starting out practicing multiple tonguing, practice very, very slowly, thinking of using quarter notes only. make sure that you get good compression and potential energy behind both your T and your K articulations. And practice that until you get those muscles strengthened and used to doing that maneuver. Then, as you start to speed up and as you start to lengthen your phrases, you want to make sure to get the air injected into the very first note of each phrase very aggressively and immediately, and then make sure that you blow with a legato connection throughout the phrase. So there you have it. Those are the nuts and bolts of double and triple tonguing on the trumpet. If you want more practice, go to the Arbin book. There's lots of great exercises there on both double tonguing and triple tonguing. And then you can try those theme and variations pieces at the end of the Arbin book, like Carnival of Venice and Fantasy Brillante. They always have some really fun sections in there with both double tonguing and triple tonguing that you can play any tempo you want for good practice. I hope you enjoyed that. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more trumpet content. See you next time.